Talk 12. The case of the crumpled Coke can. Okay, firstly, let me ask you, have you ever seen a monk turn into a Coke can? Seriously, because it can happen. Now, I won't break a precept by doing it right now, but by the end of this talk, you may have witnessed a transformation. An inner transformation, mind you, if not an inner contradiction. But on one condition, it must be a crumpled Coke can, preferably discarded, unwanted, and not even being recycled. But first, let's take a look at how the Dharma resolves inner contradictions. The Dharma uses letting go. The Dharma encourages moderation. The Dharma promotes wise restraint, non-identification, seeing issues clearly and stopping identifying with them. The Dharma promotes moderation, renunciation, present moment grounding, non-comparison, and relinquishing outcomes. We all need connection. We do. We all get lonely. Having got connected, we want to get out and be alone. We wish for belonging, and yet we also want freedom and independence too. Think of standing in a crowded room and smiling politely, secretly longing for quiet retreat, for rest, and just being alone afterwards. Sometimes when we're in crowded places, public places, train stations, or when you're walking a pavement and a stranger is approaching, do you say good morning or not? Do you want connection or solitude? We want connection, but we feel we need solitude. It's the real thing. Anyone remember that song? A group of peace-loving people from all over the world are gathered at sunrise on a beautiful cliff overlooking the ocean, beaming love and friendship. The camera pulls away. They sing, "I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, grow apple trees and honey bees and furnish it with love." Okay, at this point, you probably think this talk is being sponsored by fizzy drinks companies. There is no truth in this. But there is a drinks dispenser at the back in case you feel a need for a lip-smacking, thirst-quenching, ace-tasting, motivating, good-buzzing, cool-talking, high-walking, fast-living, ever-giving, cool-fizzing, peptic ulcer, and tooth cavity. How did this phenomena show up in daily life? Well, think of these scenes. A person arrives at a group meal and they hesitate. There it is. They're unsure where to sit, who they naturally belong beside. They want connection. And they need to be solo. Or another one, in a shared kitchen. Two people are there already, and they're in mid-conversation while someone else enters and waits quietly for the kettle to boil, hovering at the edge of the exchange. The first two, they are connected. The third, solo, can't quite connect. Not sure if they could or should. Wanting connection, but also needing solitude. A third, A hubbub or chatter is going on in the staff room in the school. And someone walks into the room. The voices all dip slightly. Everyone was connected. But the solo person entering breaks the spell, and this pleasant solitude also becomes an awkward silence. Discomfort. Another one. At a group meeting, laughter breaks out, but one person is half a second late, and their eyes tell they don't quite understand the joke. George's label. In Vienna, meditation teacher George Bickel visited me early one morning, giving me a rousing speech on mindfulness and the importance of every single moment awareness. With his sweater on back to front, so that the label was sticking out under his chin. The rest of us were busy silently suppressing a smirk as George looked around. What is so funny? Someone sits alone in a cafe, watching everyone else, while pretending not to. Unlike everyone else, they are unabsorbed. A person is happily alone, breathing, sitting peacefully, enjoying the nature. Just as silence has settled very comfortably, there's a timid knock at the door. There's the solitude that they were looking for. Now we're going to have community. We're going to have connection, whether we like it or not. On an aeroplane, elbows negotiate, nudging for the armrest. Ever done that before? It happens without words. Both want their space. Both might open up and connect and start a conversation. But then the sharing would follow, and that would mean sacrificing solitude and possible sleep. Sharing the seat rest, my night flight over Karachi. When I first ever long flight, me and my school friend were aged 21. We flew from London to Moscow to Karachi, Pakistan, to Bangkok to Manila. I had never been on a night flight. Thus, I had never seen the planet Earth from the sky at night. It was one of the most exciting and inspiring experiences I'd ever experienced. As we left Karachi at night, about to fly over India, we had been given aisle seats. An Indian businessman, frequent flyer, was stuffed into the seat by the window. For me, the prospect of seeing India at night and taking off was already exciting enough. But then, as the airplane tilted for the first time, I saw an entire city lit up at night. I was breathless, and it looked like a jewelry box of diamonds had been spilled out onto black velvet. I was jumping over the seats and wide-eyed, grabbing my friend to come and see out of the tiny window. Next to the window, a bulging, unshaved businessman with black rings under his eyes threw another peanut in his mouth, looking at me with disgust, as if to say, "It's a bunch of lights. What did you expect to see from a plane taking off over Karachi? Flying camels?" And what are the Dharma connections in this? This wanting connection, but also needing solitude. Connect or open up. Privacy and mind my own business. Space or being friendly. Be focused or stop what you're doing. I don't know you versus common good manners and community spirit. Mindful introspection or unconditional love. Wise selective companionship or all-inclusive hospitality and metta. So the Dharma principle here is wise association and seclusion in balance. If we look in suttas, we find in Upada Sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 45, spiritual friendship is the whole of the body. It's the whole of the holy life. And Viveka, or solitude, passages are in many suttas that seclusion gives nourishment in Majjhima Nikaya. The Buddha praised good friendship. He praised it deeply, but himself would repeatedly withdraw into forest alone. Community sports practice. Solitude deepens it. Both were and are part of the training. As human beings, we need one another for warmth and perspective. We need solitude for clarity and inner balance. We need wise companionship to support the path, and seclusion to deepen it. We need connection for belonging, and solitude for integration. We need others, and we need space to do our inner work. So wanting to belong, and also needing autonomy. How does the Dharma resolve such inner contradictions? This wanting to belong, but also needing autonomy. It's perfectly natural to want to belong, be the property of a place or a group, or to be a member of a particular group or organization, and to have an affinity for a special place or situation. But we also need autonomy. So what is autonomy? It's self-government, independence, sovereignty, freedom. We also need freedom from external control or influence. We need a balance between membership and independence. Clinging brings pain of separation, isolation, and a sense of being misunderstood, excluded, alienated, may just increase paranoia and neurotic imaginings. So perhaps we can look at the way the need is for intelligent and sensitive balance, not just one or the other in extremes, all about the group, all about isolation. Belonging involves attachment. We cling to places, cling to people. We cling even to clothes, to gadgets, to devices. We feel comfortable with a routine of foods and weather climates. Then there is freedom from attachment. Freedom not enslaved by attachment. Wanting connection, but also needing solitude. Wanting mutual friendly trust, but also needing emotional safety. So what is that? What is mutual friendly trust? Let me give you some examples. But before I do, a quick tale. You sure? Okay, so late at night, a man wakes. Rain is hammering down. The clock says 2 a.m. He hears a knocking on the door downstairs. His wife says, "Go and see what that is." So he reluctantly gets his coat on over his pajamas, leaves his warm coat. The knocking comes again. He puts the chain on the latch and carefully opens the door a little. In the pouring rain, a man is there. The smell of alcohol strong as he slurs. "Sorry, excuse me. Could you give me a push, please?" Behind the door, the man replies, "I'm sorry, mate. You're completely drunk. You shouldn't even be driving." "No, I'm sorry. I don't want to get involved. Look, there are some other houses along the way." And he slams the door closed, thuds up the stairs grumpily, goes back to bed, switching off the light. "Who was that?" asked his wife in the darkness. "Oh, never mind. Just some weird drunk, absolutely sozzled. Go back to sleep." After a while, her voice is heard again. "But I mean, what if everyone was like you? What would the world be like? You remember that time we broke down on the A1 in the middle of nowhere, and you walked across that field to a farmhouse, and the farmer let you use their phone to call the car service? You remember the wife even put a thermos of hot tea in when you came back? After stewing in the dark for a short time, he responded, "Oh, okay, I suppose so. I'll go see." So he put his work trousers over his pajamas, his thick raincoat on, and a hat, got an umbrella, and pushed open the front door. All he could see was pouring dark rain. He called out, "Oi, okay, I'll give you that push. Now where are you?" Then a drunken voice came back from over the hedge. "I'm over here, sitting on this swing." So, yeah. Mutual friendly trust. So, wanting connection, but also needing solitude. Wanting mutual friendly trust, but also needing emotional safety. So, what is that? What is mutual friendly trust? Let me give you 5 examples. Firstly, there's an environment where everyone feels comfortable sharing their thoughts openly, knowing others will listen with kindness and without judgment. Or second, there's a setting where everyone trusts that their personal boundaries will be respected, and there's no pressure to disclose more than they feel they are ready for. Thirdly, there's a relationship where each person knows they can rely on the other for honesty and constructive feedback without any hidden agendas. Fourth, there's a shared understanding. When emotions or challenges are expressed, they will be treated with care and confidentiality. Or lastly, a space where encouragement and support are given freely. And nobody there feels they have to perform or prove themselves to earn that support. So this was mutual friendly trust. Mutual friendly trust. Well, we all need it to grow healthy and clear. Often we lack such places, such relationships. So we have to cultivate them, seek them out, develop them. Then we have to practice it for the benefit of others too, seeing how essential it is. And often quite rare in this life. And this is what we're saying, wanting this is okay. It's normal. People want mutual friendly trust, but they also need emotional safety. So what is that? What is emotional safety? Let me give you 5 examples showing a kind of definition. What emotional safety might look like. It's perhaps feeling free to express your thoughts or vulnerabilities without fear of ridicule or rejection. Or second, knowing that disagreements can be discussed without escalating into personal attacks or threats. Another one, having trust that your emotions will be met with empathy or understanding, even if someone doesn't fully agree. Emotional safety can be feeling safe to set boundaries and have them respected without guilt or retaliation. Another, being able to share mistakes or failures and still feel accepted and supported afterwards. And do you feel okay with that it gets held comfortably without being judged? Hot foot in Manila. People can be very judgmental. I was once staying in Manila. I would go out with my arms bowed, barefoot. I would walk along a road with a broad river on my right side. Because of the river, I always knew where I was and didn't get lost. One day, for variety and to go see, I decided to cross a bridge over the river. I thought it would be easy enough. Once over the bridge, I could turn right. As long as I walked back with the river on my right side, it would be fine. Eventually, I would see where I was staying, over on the other side of the river, and go along to the next bridge. Easy. On I walked. Many people thought I was a Christian monk, jumping up to get an apple or biscuits, only after a while realizing I was Buddhist. So on I walked, looking over the other side of the river for home base. After a long walk, I started to sense something was up. Long story short, the river had had a fork that I hadn't seen. I was following a different river for at least 2 hours. On top of the usual long walk, barefoot, rough concrete. I tried crossing. I got lost. I tried crossing back. I got lost again. All the time, the roads were getting hotter and hotter. I would go up to poor security guards, but just didn't have the heart to ask if they had any spare shoes. When I finally unraveled the whole thing and found my way back, it was about 2 p.m. I collapsed with exhaustion. The next morning, I still went out for arms round, but I decided to put some shoes on as my feet were so cut up and blistered. But at one point, a motorcyclist stopped, probably having often seen me on my arms round before. Disapprovingly, he looked at my feet, frowning. He said, "Hey, you're wearing shoes," as if to say, all the other Buddhist monks around here don't wear shoes. Me being the only other one, of course. We need both visibility and privacy, and not everyone has a place to go home to. Let me tell you the story about the crumpled Coke can. I was at a weekend retreat in Hampstead, North London. It was advertised as a Jungian-based image work, the ideas of Carl Jung. I trusted the facilitator because they had set up 2 complete islands in Greece where people could go on retreats. And there they had multiple teachers, multiple groups, multiple activities. So we began the weekend. Everyone sat in a circle, and I was new at this. It was something completely new, but I've worked a lot with my imagination as an illustrator. The first activity was, as we sat in a circle, the leader simply said, okay, get your image, allow your image to come to mind. And everybody closed their eyes. When I closed my eyes, all I saw was a rush of many, many different images that constantly kept changing, like it often is in Vipassana. They could be symbols, they could be Buddhist lotuses, they could be Buddhist statues, they could be clips from pictures of hundreds and hundreds of different images rushing. Nothing would stay still. It was just a kind of snowstorm. So this carried on, and then she rang the bell. And then started to go around the group one by one as they introduced what they were experiencing. Jeffrey, how about you? Jeffrey said, yes, I found a dolphin. Dolphin really clearly came up. There it is. Good, right. Okay, Andy. Oh yeah, that was a mountain range, golden mountain range, with soft golden light across the peaks. Okay. Norma, how about you? I had an eagle soaring, hovering, looking down. So on. And it came to me. Still, every time I closed my eyes, I just had this flurry, a rush of changing pictures. So I said, I have this kind of flurry, snowstorm of pictures. I said, I can't get it to stop. So she said, okay, well, visualize this image, rush, on a cinema screen. Can you do that? So I said, yes. And she said, can you see the rush of pictures on the cinema screen? I said, yeah, I can. She said, okay, and quickly look behind the cinema screen, which I did. Well, we used to have a cinema screen when I was a child in the local town. And I kind of imagined what that would have been like. Looked like a big wooden stage and curtains, like red velvet curtains. It was old. So she said, what was behind the cinema screen? I said, nothing. She goes, no, not nothing. What was that? It was just nothing. It wasn't just nothing. I said, well, it was just a kind of velvet curtains and some trash, chip paper and a Coke can. And she said, what? She says, the Coke can. I said, yeah, it was just a crumpled Coke can. She says, okay, take the crumpled Coke can as your object. And I was like, oh, come on now, come on. He had a dolphin. He had a mountain. She had an eagle. I felt very envious. I got a crumpled Coke can. So then she said, okay, come into the center of the circle as your first activity. And I was going to be in the middle of the circle with a crumpled Coke can. So she said, now visualize, hold that Coke can perfectly in your mind. Really hold it still. I said, yeah. I could kind of circle it and see it very clearly. She said, become one with the Coke can. And tell me, how does the Coke can feel? So I did this. I really got into it. How does it feel to be a discarded, crumpled Coke can? And I said, yeah, I feel abandoned. I feel unneeded. I feel neglected. It feels like I've been thrown away. I had a use, but now I was on the shelf. Someone had a swig or somebody drunk out of me, and then they just threw me away. And now I'm neglected. Now nobody knows I'm there anymore. And it carried on like that. And then gradually I emerged out of this. I looked around. The people had their eyes wide open. She goes, "That's what you're working with, feeling like that." So this shows how good training can use anything that comes to mind. I was feeling abandoned. I was feeling neglected. I could at least have had an abandoned dolphin. And that teacher showed me a very useful skill, a skillful means. The skill is learning to become one with whatever arises. If you push it away, you split the mind in two. In my first meditation center, at first, as learner meditators, we're like someone learning to drive a car, how to operate the controls. We want to indicate, but the windscreen wipers start up. We need to park on our own meditation cushion in line with all the others. But the car alarm goes off in public. The lights go green and we put the pedal down, only it jumps forward and stalls. We really need to introduce some kind of system with a large L plate on our rear bumper. In my first meditation center, when I had some highly imaginative things shoot through in my mind, my inexperienced guide was terrified. He said, "Oh man, you got lost. You got lost, man. Don't ever do that again." You know, he got very panicky about me experiencing a highly active imagination. So wanting mutual friendly trust, but also needing emotional safety. The unwelcoming sneer. There was a Buddhist conference I arrived at once. I traveled some 2,500 miles or so, not barefoot, mind you. I went directly from the Philippines. I went directly from the airport. So, I had one of those purple puff shoulder neck rests. I was wearing that. I had these long tan Mahayana overrobe and a folded woolen blanket, from sleeping, all crumpled over. I had my ear defenders were still around my neck. Some black eye masks were dangling from my pocket. And it was practical, but unconventional. But I also had some dark red sneakers that proved practical for schoolwork. Vans off the road skateboard shoes. So you can imagine that arriving with my 20-kilogram flight case at the Buddhist convention, direct from the taxi, I may have looked somewhat less than your usual monk. And there was a very senior British Theravada Orthodox monk there, visiting from Thailand. He puffed himself up, horrified and disgusted. He sneered and snarked loudly. "Who are you? No. What are you?" Looking with disgusted contempt at my appearance, as if he had kind of scraped me off his shoe, without a word of greeting or welcoming. Who are you and what are you? They were rhetorical questions. Who are you and what are you? He meant to alienate and prejudge, made to make me feel excluded, unwelcome, and himself feel superior, included, and entitled. Actually, I recognized him as someone I'd once slept at his place one night in his room during an unexpected stopover in Bangkok. We'd chatted friendly. I warmly reminded him of this pleasant enough evening. To my horror, he boomed out, "You stole my bus pass." This I could not believe. Incredulous, I hotly denied it. What on earth would I want with that? I was there in Bangkok taking 2 taxis and never coming back again. Those are all on superficial appearances. So warm, unconditional love, warm welcome makes everyone feel comfortable. There's no boundary or limit for this. It happens all over the world, in every culture, or it can do. Or somehow it doesn't. And that shows perhaps the lack of spiritual cultivation in the individual, or maybe the group or community there. So wanting recognition, but also needing invisibility. I care deeply about people, and I care deeply about myself. So we must balance service with self-care. As the Buddha taught, no one is dearer to us than ourselves. We can know what we need and organize care for our own well-being, both with the collaboration of others and with our own independent action. We want connection, but we also need solitude. We want to be understood via expression, communication, but we also need to protect our inner world through self-containment. It's about expression and containment. Today, we're exploring this kind of tension, the tension between belonging to others and belonging to ourselves, the tension between wanting community and also needing space to think independently. Paul Simon wrote, "And from the shelter of my mind, through the window of my eyes, my thoughts are many miles away. I know that I am like the rain. There, but for the grace of you, go I. I stand alone without beliefs. The only truth I know is you." Actually, that last one is a very dependent kind of look. Do you remember the story of Padachara, who lost all of her family in a flash flood? Her infant children left on a riverbank, struggling to carry them across. And one was picked up, carried away by a large bird. The other drowned. Her parents' house, it turned out, had collapsed, killing them all. Floods of grief, scattered, fragile, alone. Michael Stipe of R.E.M. wrote, "Life is bigger. It's bigger than you, and you are not me. I'm trying to keep up with you, and I don't know if I can do it. Oh no, I've said too much. I haven't said enough." So we want community, but also need space to think independently. Between vulnerability and boundaries, we want support. But we also need self-reliance. And it's little acts of kindness and humor that remind us of that. I was walking down the high street in my hometown, usually busy. It was a quiet Sunday morning, very deserted and peaceful. And I saw a very lovely looking Labrador dog tripping along the pavement, across the road, just wandering around, ownerless. And it was close to a coffee shop. So the dog was very tame, and I managed to catch its collar and calm it down, stroke it. And I noticed there was a little metal disc on its collar. Fortunately, it had a phone number on it, and I had my phone on me. So I phoned it up. I said, "Excuse me, have you lost your dog?" She said, "Oh yes, Where is he? He's gone out again, is he? I said, yes. She said, where are you? I said, I'm down in the high street, just outside Café Rouge, the local coffee shop. And she said, okay, wait there. I'll come and get him. While I was waiting there, and to my surprise, a waitress in black and white costume came out from the coffee shop. And she said, oh, hi, we saw what you did. Would you like a bowl of water? So I said, no, it's okay. I had a cup of tea before I came out. I love community deeply, especially when everyone else has gone home. It's lovely to have a nice, close-knit family 2 cities away. With that, let's all appreciate this community, this group, our unconditional support of each other, and the joy of solitude and of peaceful inner being. Okay, everyone, let's wind up this talk. Take care, breathe calmly, relax your body, and know that you're welcome, you're unjudged, you're among friends, and that we foster an atmosphere of calm, non-judgmental, inclusive awareness.